wanted to make sure we got that squared away. So yeah, quick bio about me. So I've, let's see, born and raised, Midwestern values, married almost 17 years, 2 kids, and life's good, life's peachy. But I just knew deep down that I wasn't living up to what I think I was meant to do, whether that's, driven by God, if you believe in God, or whatever, whatever it is you believe in, you know what I mean, or whatever it is you think you got going on as far as like what you think your purpose here on this planet is to do. And I had that sort of epiphany in my mid 30s. I was 34, and by all accounts, I was super successful. College graduate. Grades. I had to work my ass off for grades, though. Grades didn't come easy. And but I had a really comfortable background, though. So I'm the oldest of 4, and my parents are still married, and we were middle class. So I didn't really have to struggle with wondering if the rent was going to get paid, so to speak, or eat, or when am I going to get my next meal. And I was fortunate for that. You know what I mean? And we weren't rich, but we definitely weren't poor, because I knew what poor was. And I was kind of lucky in the fact that I didn't have to go through any super adverse situations for a long, long time. And that's just luck of the draw, I think. But what you get with adversity is, I think adversity forges character, which is why going back to being middle-aged, I just took stock that like my life up until this point had been kind of mediocre, kind of vanilla. I hadn't pushed myself to really see what I'm capable of. And I was looking for an avenue to do that. And I'm just giving you like the short 30,000 foot view right now. So long story short, I elected to go to this camp that's put on by Navy SEALs.
All right.
And it's based on Hell Week. And it's designed for civilians and also folks looking to become an operator, join special forces. And I did it just to see if I had what it takes. I really wanted to meet myself for the first time. So it was over 50 hours straight of no sleep, minimal food, nonstop mental, physical, emotional training. And I graduated from that. And that just, it was like a rebirth, man. I really found out who I was, what was important to me. So many lessons learned. I wrote a book called School of Grit, which is based on that experience. And it tells you, walks through all the evolutions we did over that 50 hours, what the lessons were. And then I take it a little step further and tell you how to apply that to your life as a person, as a parent, as a spouse, as a worker. Take all those lessons and kind of bring them home. And then that's evolved into what I'm doing now, which is coaching and mentoring people, men, women. And I do that through a proven program that took about a year long for me to get through. So yeah, that's like the short suite of it, man. That's what I got going on.
What do you specifically mentor people on, if you could boil it down, or is it very different depending on the person?
No, it's all pretty similar. So it's grit. So that's sort of my tagline is grow your grit with Coach Rit. And my definition of grit is, and if you look up grit, there's lots of definitions. It's one of those words that can have all those similar meanings to each person who's looking at it. And this has developed over time, but my definition of grit is uncommon perseverance in the face of adversity to achieve a worthy goal that's backed by a strong why. And there's lots of little parts in there. We break that down, but really at the heart of it, when I look at grow and grit with people, you can do that from the inside out. You can do that from the outside in. Outside in is my favorite way to do it, is putting people through crucible style experiences that are typically physical in nature. They're hard, but we do it together as a team. So I typically set those up quarterly for my tribe members, and we do that together. And then growing it from the inside out, I look at an individual and I put them into 5 different buckets, if you will. You got your physical because I believe physical is just an easy place to start with everybody, and you can see immediate results. You know what I mean? Like you can tell, like if you want to lose weight, cool. You know if you're losing weight. If you want to gain muscle, you know if you're getting stronger. So I start with physical, but it's much more than that. It's mental. So we work on mental toughness, emotional resiliency through different practices. We work on emotional, which that's the heavy baggage one, man. We all got a lot of baggage we carry around, and I'm not a therapist. I don't claim to be one, but it's good to at least examine that and examine like how your background was growing up, and because that's ultimately going to relate to how you act in adulthood. So it's physical, mental, emotional, and then we go intuitional, and then work on that warrior spirit, trying to figure out like what your purpose is, what your passions are, what your principles are, and yeah, so that's in a nutshell. That's what we work on.
You mentioned the why, and there's so much there that I actually want to unpack, which I will throughout. But you mentioned the why. I'm someone, I don't necessarily think that for me personally, especially with regards to physical exercises or physical feats, the why doesn't really play a part whatsoever. In fact, maybe it does play a part, but maybe I just don't think about it. How important do you think the why is with regards to physical activities?
The physical activities, I'd say it's really important. Well, two things there. So one, this would be for folks who maybe don't so much care about their physical stature, let's say, or haven't put that much time into it. I would say you're probably lying to yourself. Like if you look at yourself in the mirror and you're out of shape, you know you are. You just don't want to admit it. Maybe you find yourself comparing yourself to other people, that sort of thing. But we're just big believers in a sound body and a sound mind, and the two go hand in hand. The better you feel about yourself, you know, a byproduct of working out is hopefully you're going to look a little better. You're going to feel a little better. Guess what? That builds confidence right there. Absolutely does. And that rings true. That confidence rings true anywhere, whether it's in the boardroom, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's dealing with your kids, to asking the girl out at the local pub. I mean, it's confidence, right? So 100%. I think it's an ingredient that if you haven't looked at, you need to. And guess what? It's probably the easiest one to work on. It really is. And then in the second part of that, sorry, go ahead.
I agree with you there, because it is, you mentioned all these things and I started like going, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Like the physical for me is no problem whatsoever. I work out every day because I'm disciplined and because I've negotiated with myself that that's what I'm going to do when I wake up in the morning, and nothing else in my day is going to start until I've ticked that box.
Perfect.
Just like making your bed and everything else. But when you talk about stuff like the emotional, that's when like, you know, I'm like, whoa.
And so, yeah, with that, like I go to a couple different places. So, you know, having a good why around the physical, and I'm a believer that you probably don't go through life just with one why. You probably have like a bucket of whys, and they change throughout the seasons or throughout your life. Could be for your wife, could be for your kids. It could be for you because you've had a near brush with death, maybe. You could be training for something, you know, signing up for some sort of event that's going to keep you going, that's going to keep you pushing. But going to like the emotional mountain, let's say, or the mental, I've met lots of people, especially in the big like Globo gyms, let's say, like that are like they look like studs, but they are soup sandwiches emotionally, man, and their life's just all out of whack. It's probably because they're spending all their time on the physical realm, and it's like, okay, cool. We need to also shore up that mental space and your emotional state so that your whole body is working together. You know.
Do you think that like I do talk to a lot of people about this, and I guess it could possibly be my why. I might have actually just told a lie there. I mean, I guess, you know, I do feel better when I do exercise. And that better mentally, not necessarily physically. Like physically, I'm aching, I'm destroyed.
Yeah, right on.
But mentally, you feel like, all right, I've done something and I've achieved something. I feel better for it, right? I think, how together do you think the physical and the mental really are?
I think they go hand in hand. I think they absolutely go hand in hand, and they can they can help one another out. And, you know, think about the last tough workout you did, whatever it was. I guarantee it was a mental challenge. You probably wanted to quit somewhere along the way. Hopefully you didn't, because guess what? Then you're building mental toughness, you're building emotional resiliency. But I love working out to the point of I want to quit. That's the point I want to get to, because I tell myself internally, like, cool, now the workout has started. You know, now it really begins, because it's all peaches and cream when it's sunny out and the weather's great. But, you know, say you want to go for a run, and the weather's awesome outside. It's very easy to get motivated. Not so much when it's pouring down rain or it's freezing cold in the winter. I don't know how the winters are around you, but they get pretty cold around here. It's much different. It's very easy to not lace up those sneakers and go. But I think that's when it's the most important, because that's when you're going to really have those conversations internally with yourself.
100%. That's where the battles come, and that's where as well. I don't know if you agree with this, Brad, but I think that's where the reward is as well. Because if I'm out and it's hailing and I'm skipping for 3 rounds straight,
Yep.
and I look into the neighbor's garden and no one's there, and I look into the garden across and no one's there, everyone's comfy in their bed, I go,
That's
yeah,
it.
exactly. Exactly.
I love it when, to your point, like you go out and you're like the only one out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, all right, cool. Or the neighbors see it and they're like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah. What is he doing?
Yeah. There's a tagline I like to say inside of our tribe, at the School of Grit tribe, and that is, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. You don't have to get ready if you stay ready. So I love that mentality, because let's face it, I mean, the world around us, I don't watch the news, but I'm not stupid. I know of things that are going on and whatnot. And it's definitely seems like it's becoming a scarier place, especially with my kids around and just the age of them. So it's, again, you want to be ready. You want to be ready for when life presents itself to you. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be easy or you're going to be 100% prepared, but I guarantee you're going to be better off if you work on this stuff now versus when it happens.
Just a couple of quick fire questions. So you're a father, obviously. How old are your children and how many do you have?
I have 2 kids. My oldest, Hallie, she's 11, my daughter, and then my son's 8.
Right. And obviously I'm not a father. I'm quite young, but what do you think's your biggest fear for them, and what do you think their biggest fear is going to be growing up?
I write it in my book, actually. I'd get it. It's right over there, but this cord's going to be in the way. But when I dedicated the book to my wife and then to my kids. And what I tell my kids is, don't be afraid to suck at something new. Don't be afraid to suck at something new. Because I just think, and this isn't just for kids, this is for adults too. We live these comfortable lives, and a lot of times we're afraid of what we're going to look like if we try that new thing, or we do that new talk, or whatever the case may be. And that you just need to have that mentality of like never being afraid of being judged. You know what I mean? Because the critics are always out there, but guess what the critics do? The critics sit in the cheap seats and they critique. You know, the honor, if you will, goes to the man in the arena, so to speak. Not to quote like Teddy Roosevelt, but I think I like the man of the arena poem that he wrote. And so that's what I would say in regards to that. That's what I'm afraid of, is that they'll confide. I don't want them to confide. I want them to be themselves. I want them to be leaders. I want them to try new things.
100%. And I think I really get what you're saying about. I'm not someone that often thinks about what other. I don't feel embarrassment very often. I'm lucky in that sense, or maybe I'm unlucky. It depends on the way that you frame it. But I can remember one time I did feel really embarrassed, was when I had my first day of boxing training before my bout, and everyone in there could skip, and I didn't know how to skip with a rope. And it's
don't have to skip a rope.
You think back to kindergarten and all that, and you think, well, like everyone's looking at me like, "What, are you stupid?" Like that. And there was I was all right. I was physically fit-ish when I went in there, and there were people that weren't physically fit at all that were skipping rope, and I was just like, this is terrible. But I guess when I got home, I felt really embarrassed, but it was pitch black in the middle of the night. I went out and I started skipping.
There you
And
go.
then eventually, I was doing skipping for an hour straight, no problem. So I think,
Isn't that amazing? That's a metaphor for life right there. And
yeah,
I can relate to that because I used to work out in a CrossFit gym, and double unders used to be part of that program. I couldn't do a double under to save my life, man. I'd have these jump rope marks all over my arms and my legs. And then finally, you get the cadence and you're like, well, this isn't so hard, but
yeah,
you just didn't have the reps. I think a lot of times we put these just unrealistic expectations on ourselves. Like, this is your first time trying it. You're not going to be, professional at it from the first time of trying anything. You might have some natural talent, but that's the other thing I see a lot with, let's say, newer generation. Back to the generational thing, is sort of like the instant gratification and wanting things like right away. And man, it doesn't work that way. You gotta put in the hard work 9 times out of 10. I mean, you can get lucky sometimes. Sure, we can all get lucky, but more often than not, it's trials, tribulations, blood, sweat, and tears. It's lots of hours that people don't see. And then you become, quote unquote, successful in whatever it is. But they don't understand what it was like just starting off and trying to jump a rope and not being able to.
100%. And it is, it's whatever your idea of successful is. I really do want to talk about the generational thing, because I think
that's cool.
As a member of my generation, I'm both proud and I'm both severely disappointed. The way that I was raised, I was grateful, and obviously I had pushy parents. I had parents that wanted me to achieve, and I was a lazy kid till about the age of 16. I just wasn't interested, and then suddenly, I don't know what happened, I just became this absolute monster of efficiency and production. I wanted to do everything all at once, again and again and again. But when I went to uni, I noticed there were a few people like me, and then there were loads of people that were focused on whining about what was around them or what was happening around them, and never actually focusing on what was going on with them and how to develop themselves. And I just want to get your thoughts on that. Is it something that you see too, or am I insane? Or
yeah, I definitely see that a lot, especially on social media or the news. And that's probably a reason that I don't really watch the news too often anymore. And social media, if I go on, it's for specific things because it's too easy to get caught up in that stuff. But yeah, I mean, to your point, it's very easy to. I think people just want someone or something to blame when that thing is probably staring at them in the face in a mirror. Yeah. I mean, if they're trying to have a real conversation with themselves, it's not anyone else's fault. It's probably your fault at some point, or just take ownership of it, because there's plenty of people that have been dealt way worse hands in life and they overcame. So why can't you? Why can't you?
Yeah. And I think people are very quick to just be defeated. Maybe yes. They're very quick to go, okay, you win, and it's like, well, why? Why? I look at people. I'm not a smart cookie. I'm not someone that's like up on the IQ list. I was never a natural athlete, and there are people that are, and they're not doing anything. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, if I had your talent, I'd rule the world. What are you doing? Yeah. And it's just something, I guess, it does bother you a bit. And it makes you think, I wish you knew what I knew, which is, if you do just put in those hard yards, everything becomes easier.
Yeah, those are the people I was always maybe fearful is the right word, in sports in particular, was not only did they have talent, but they also worked hard. And then you knew it, like they worked harder than you. And it's like, that's tough. But it's the people that had talent but didn't work hard. I was like, I'll get you, and I'll end up surpassing you. Just give me some time, because it's just going to take some time, Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think talent is something as well that is extremely overrated. I've had loads of things in my life that I was very untalented at to start with, but then I worked hard and I got all right at it. And that's not talent. That's just there's this idea that I spoke about in the last episode, actually, which is called falling in love with the grind.
Mm-hmm.
If you focus too much on the end goal, all you're going to be doing is sitting there daydreaming about how great it's going to be when you reach that end goal. Forget the end goal. Start falling in love with the process. I love process now. I'm addicted to it. I don't know how you feel about that. You know, even with what you're doing, the School of Grit, like all the little things that you have to do. You enjoy doing them, or is it just?
Yeah, 100%. You got to be engineer your day or your life to where you like the day-to-day stuff, because just living your life based on big goals, like, guess what? You accomplish that goal, there's usually a fall from grace somewhat, because you've spent all this time. Let's use a race, for example. Say you've been building up to run a marathon. It's the first thing that just entered my head. And you know, you spend 6 months of your life dedicated to the marathon. Marathon comes, you nail it, you rock it. Now what? You're gonna do another one? There's like a fallacy. There's the arrival fallacy there. So yeah, I definitely 100% agree with that. And that goes into performance too. Like, there's optimal performance and then there's peak performance. I prefer to stay in the optimal performance ring, because every single time you reach peak performance, guess what? There's always a little bit of a fall. Every single time. Every single time.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And yeah, I think there have been times in my life where I've achieved that goal, and I'm not someone that, well, I don't think I do. Maybe in the modern world terms, I probably do, but who knows? I'm not someone that suffers from mental health or anything like that. But there is that day after you've achieved that great thing. Sometimes you've been working up to for like 3 or 4 months. The next day you're just like so low. And I'm not someone. I've always been criticized by friends, ex-girlfriends, and the whatnot of not waking up and smelling the roses. You know, not waking up and going, I did that. It's just because I think that the journey is more what I'm invested in rather than actually the end goal, maybe. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
I don't think so either. It's easy to get wrapped up in goals, and you can have too many goals and not the right goals, and that's a whole nother conversation in and of itself. But yeah, you just got to enjoy the day-to-day grind, as you will. You know, trying to habit stack good days. Just have one good day, and one good day turns into 2, which turns into 4, which before you know it, you got a good week, good month, good year. I mean, that's in its simplest terms, that's how you can do it.
That's really interesting. I really wanted to go back to this Navy SEALs program simulation that you did. If you could just outline some of the physical activities, because I know there's quite a few people listening that are fitness freaks and stuff like that, but not in the sense that they're going to put themselves through hell, right? They're like going to the gym.
Yeah.
I know there's a difference between the two, so I wanted to hear your take on that.
Yeah. So the camp. So leaving me back up to even get accepted into the camp, there were standards you had to meet. And those standards, I don't think they've changed, but back when I went, which was 2015, you had to do 50 perfect push-ups in 2 minutes without breaking or without, you know, resting your chest on the deck or anything like that. If you wanted to rest, you know, you had to be in the up position. And then you'd have a 2-minute rest, and then you'd do 2 minutes of sit-ups, and you had 50 perfect sit-ups, and you had to rest in the up position, not with your back on the ground. 2-minute rest, and then you had 2 minutes of air squats, where unless you've got flexibility challenges, you know, you're just doing a squat, and you're supposed to go below parallel on those. And again, 50 squats in 2 minutes, followed by a 2-minute rest. Then you had to be able to do, for men, it was, because this was open to women too, and there were some badass women that did it. But for men, you had to do 10 strict pull-ups, no time limit, but you just couldn't come off the bar. And then after all that, you had to run a mile in pants and boots. And it wasn't too bad. It was like 9 minutes, I think, I want to say. So, you know, the standard wise was, you had to be fit for sure, but nothing like too crazy, I didn't felt, but that was just like the entry fee. All right.
Yeah.
Then when you got there, I'll just kind of give you the quick like the first day, right? The first 24 hours, we did about 2 to 3 hours of calisthenics nonstop with, they call it breakout. So all these coaches would descend upon you, and they're spraying you with water. They've got, you know, megaphones in your ear, shouting orders at you. It's pure chaos, pure chaos. It's to simulate war is basically what they're trying to do without, you know, thankfully I didn't have any firearms going off or explosions in the background, but it was pretty close. I mean, it's very chaotic. And again, 2 to 3 hours. So think of the last time you did calisthenics for 2 to 3 hours straight. I had never done that, you know, so that was the first part, and it was designed to really test your heart. Like, hey, do I want to be here? Because you're thinking, all I'm thinking mentally is like, okay, I'm about, because you don't have a watch, you're guessing. It's like, I'm about an hour in. There is no way I can keep up this pace for another 49 hours or whenever they say this thing's done. So we lost 3 or 4 people right then and there after it, because they gave in to that. And then after that, they took us to a local lake and had us get in, and then they had us low crawl around the lake. So probably a couple miles of low crawling. So now, like, my arms are cut up, my legs are cut up, I'm covered in mud. And then guess what? Then they had us do our PT test. So that test I just told you about, they said, okay, now we're going to test you. So you don't even get to do it fresh. You have to do it after 4 to 5 hours of getting beat down. And you had to be close to the numbers that you set in. And if you didn't make the standard, you got a warning. And if you got 2 warnings, you were dismissed because you weren't able to keep up with the standards. So after that, we did lots of running. There was some more games, we'll just say, that we played. It could have been, you know, carrying your buddies on stretchers around, and that was very hard. And then it got to be, it was starting, nightfall was going to be upon us in a couple hours. Then we did a famous hero workout called Murph. Are you familiar with the Murph workout at all? So the Murph workout it's pretty popular in CrossFit, but it's based on Lieutenant Michael Murphy. If you've ever seen the movie Lone Survivor or read the book, that Marcus Luttrell. Okay, so it's based on Michael Murphy. He was a Medal of Honor recipient, and it was his favorite workout. And the workout consists of 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats. Oh, by the way, you run a mile before you do all that, and you run a mile afterwards, and you do it while wearing 20 pounds of gear.
Jesus.
and you have an hour and 10 minutes to complete it. That workout in and of itself is extremely hard to do in that amount of time fresh. But this was after, you know, pretty much all day since 8 o'clock getting beat down. So that took us into night. I'm not even done with the day yet. And then at night, you know what we did? We hiked an entire mountain, 13 miles up, 13 miles down with rucksacks. You had about 40 to 50 pounds on you, and it was night, and they called it the long walk. We weren't
in kg. What is that in kg?
I don't know the conversion in kg, but
is it a lot?
It's a lot. 40 to 50 pounds is a lot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. You weren't allowed to talk, which added to the suck level. Oh yeah. So it's, I mean, I started hallucinating at that point, and hey, we're barely through the first day, you know, up to that point. So there you go. That gives your listeners an idea of what I'm talking about here.
I really want to do it. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I'd be, like, when you say all these things, like, you know, I could do them, but not consecutively, right? That's where the real challenge is. It's like,
that's the challenge. Yeah, is to be able to do the volume.
Yeah, that is insane. That really excites me.
And where people start really getting into their heads is, instead of focusing on just the next task at hand, they think ahead to, how am I going to make it till tomorrow? How am I going to make it through tonight? And it's like, don't even worry about that. Worry about, if you're doing worry about push-ups, worry about rucking, or whatever task it is you're doing. Like, that's your main goal. You got to chop the big goal down into little goals, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that's been really consistent on this podcast is people always make a mountain out of what they've got to achieve is just make it steps rather, it's
Yeah. It's the old adage, like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, or the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And it's so true.
how do you plan your life? Do you plan? See, I plan probably, I don't know, 15 minutes ahead.
Mm-hmm.
How do you plan?
Oh, of the day, you mean? Like right now? So, okay, right on. So no, mine's slightly a little bit longer than that, I would say. So it's not crazy, but I try to keep it pretty simple. So I'm huge on morning routine. Huge. It's a game changer if you're not currently doing it. So for your listeners out there, and it's not that hard to do. It's really not. But what I mean by a morning routine is, generally speaking, now there have been some extreme cases with people that I coach where they couldn't do this just because of their job, their career. So we found other ways to do it. But wake up early. Get your ass out of bed. If you set the alarm, don't hit snooze. That's the first battle of the day. That sets the tone for the day. All right. So you're going to wake up early, however much time you have. And then inside of that extra time that you now have for yourself, do something with it. So the first thing I recommend is this: drink some water.
Yeah.
Drink water. You are dehydrated from sleeping, and just chug a lug, man. Just take it down. Drink some water, get some water. And I love coffee, but the first thing I do is drink water. Then I'll start the coffee. And then I'll do about 10 minutes of breath work, meditation, whatever you want to call it. But that's why I really envision myself winning throughout the day. All right. I see myself winning because I usually plan my days kind of the night before. And then after the 10 minutes of breath, I usually do some mindful movement, some sort of it's basically like a stretching / yoga routine for about 10 minutes. So I've spent a good 25-ish minutes on myself, and then I attack whatever my passion project is. So it's typically not my day job, because I do have a day job, and I really like my day job. But my passion project's coaching, writing, blogging, that sort of thing. So I'll do something in accordance with School of Grit in that morning, because that's my time and no one else is up in my house, so I can focus that time on me. And then as we talked about, I've got kids, so they're getting up, and then I'm dad, man. I flip that hat around, and I'm making breakfast and helping get the kids ready for bed, helping out my wife if she needs something. And so that's typically every morning, man. Habitual.
Yeah. The morning
routine, man. It's critical.
This is what I say to some. I haven't got it right, and everyone listening, I haven't got it right yet. When I'm older, I'll tell you I've got it right, but I haven't quite got it right yet. But it's the routine of the day. Is like, for some reason, if you eat 3 meals a day, if you drink 2 liters of water, if you go to bed and get up at the same time every day, everything else in between can go wrong, but it's not going to matter because you've done that, right? And if you have that structure around you, it's what they teach you at school. That's what they're actually trying to teach you. Forget your lessons, your English, and that. The basic thing they're trying to teach you is you're in at 9, you leave at this time, you're in at 9 the next day, you eat at that time, you break at that time, and it's just building a structure. I think structure is really important, and it's something that you either have or you don't have, but it's really easy to get. And it's really easy to retain because it becomes part of you. It only takes 30 days to make something a habit.
And it's not hard, like you said. It's not rocket science, but like anything else, if it becomes habit, it becomes foundational. And I promise you, and to your listeners, it's like, if you don't have one and you start doing this, that is a game changer. You will thank us one day. Guaranteed.
Yeah, no, 100%. I just have one last point to touch on with you, Brad, is grit. How much I think my dad and myself, we are very different for generational reasons, and he doesn't really understand this mental health thing that's going on at the moment. He doesn't think that all of it's authentic. He thinks some of it's good. I'm sort of in between on it. I'm on the fence. I just wanted to get your opinion on like how grit could possibly change how we view mental health.
Yeah, I mean, generationally, it certainly feels like this is probably the most comfortable generation we've ever had in existence, arguably. And I cite that because, I mean, just think about what technology's done. You can order something on Amazon and literally have it right here tomorrow. I see kids in my neighborhood, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they've got their little motorized scooters and golf carts, whatever. And I'm like, man, whatever happened to just walking to where you wanted to go, or riding a bike, or climbing a tree? Or I think things have just gotten a little bit too easy, or they can be too easy. So yeah, that's why I'm a big proponent of inviting purposeful adversity into your life, like making things a little bit harder, because through hard work, that's really how you're gonna build grit. That's how you're gonna build mental toughness and all that, and that's what's going to set you up for life. And it doesn't have to be earth shattering. It's little things like waking up early in the morning and
cold showers.
Cold showers for sure. Morning routines, working out, not being afraid to, and this is going to maybe mental health, not being afraid to join a group, or join a tribe, or join a community of practice. Let's say I'm a part of a few in my life, and they are impactful, because you can talk about things that are happening in your life that maybe you've never talked to anyone about. You've never talked to your parents about this, or you never talked to your spouse about this, and so on and so forth. And back in the day, when I look at like my dad and his generation, like, and this is for men specifically, but they didn't talk about that stuff. Guys didn't talk about, that. They didn't show weakness. They certainly never cried. Dude, I'm a crier. I cried during Rambo, so it's all good. I like to show my kids that. Men can cry. It's no big deal, man. I'm a crier at times, but I do think we do have a mental health issue, for sure in the States. I don't know about anywhere else. I can't pinpoint it, man. I know COVID certainly hasn't helped.
Yeah.
It has not helped. I mean, gosh, I hate to even bring this up, but it's like, it seems like every time I'm in, see the news, like there's a shooting or something like that. And it's usually these kids that are doing it. I just had one locally by my house. I live in Indiana, like I said, but there was a shooting in Greenwood Park Mall. That's the mall I grew up going to. This just happened last week. Couldn't believe it, and I state that example because I don't know what's going on. I wish I had the answer. I don't. And I think a lot of people are in the same boat. Like, they want change, they want reform, they want something to happen. I don't know what is, but there's lots of people that want to make a difference, make a change. And I think part of it's being okay to voice, like, what are you really thinking about, like deep down inside, like what are you thinking about, and not being judged for it, doing that in a safe zone.
100%. And I think that you're basically one of those people that is invoking change. I mean, if you can give one person grit, you've sort of done something that everyone would dream of. So I think massive respect. When I was first given the opportunity to interview you, I saw School of Grit and I thought, yes. So thank you very much for coming on. This has been the Solvitor podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank our guest, Brad Ritter, and wish you all a great day. Thank you very much.
Love that deep bass, love that sound. Top floor with me, whipped and bound. Models that's heaven finally found. Bass reverberating through the ground. Drink in my hand, yeah, I'm a raver. Got the floor, get the racks, yeah, and the paper. Yeah, DJ calling me to save her. Yeah, girls on the pool, but I did that later. Drink in my hand, yeah, I'm a raver.